Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of World Talks here on TVP World. I'm your host, Benjamin Lee. Please join me and my guests on this next interview. Yahya Sinwar, the Hamas leader responsible for the devastating October 7, 2023 attack in Israel, was killed by Israeli forces in southern Gaza on October 17th of 2024. While his death is seen as a symbolic victory for Israel, experts are arguing that it won't significantly change the course of the ongoing Gaza war. So what impact will Sinwar's death have on the conflict and the wider Middle East? Well, joining us today on TVP World to discuss this is Kawa Hassan, a non-resident fellow at the Stimson Center. Hello, sir, and welcome to TVP World.
Good morning. Thank you.
So let's start with the killing of Yahya Sinwar. It was a pivotal figure for Hamas. So what does his death mean for the movement's leadership and strategy going forward?
Well, definitely the death of Yahya Sinwar is a big blow, is a severe blow to Hamas, but it's not the end of Hamas as a movement, nor as an ideology. He was, of course, heading the organization, and he was the mastermind, or probably one of the masterminds, along with Mohammed Daif, of October 7th attack. And so in that regard, his death is definitely a big blow to the organization. But why it's not the end of Hamas? Because for the fact that Israel, after the killing of Sinwar, has a golden opportunity, a unique opportunity to take the win and declare victory and retreat from Gaza, and also through negotiation try to get the hostages back. But unfortunately, that is not happening right now. On the contrary, the Netanyahu government is doubling down on its war in Gaza. It's it's bombarding, it's pounding northern Gaza as never before. As a result, northern Gaza has become literally a wasteland, an inhabitable wasteland, in the words of UN, laying siege to 400,000 people, and trying to implement the so-called general's plan, which is meaning that trying to push the inhabitants of northern Gaza to evict the area, go to other areas in Gaza. But as a matter of fact, there are no safe places left anymore in Gaza. So as far as Israel is concerned, and what we are seeing, instead of exploiting, capitalizing on this unique opportunity to try to reach a deal with Hamas through mediators, get the hostages back, is actually doubling down on its war in Gaza. As far as Hamas is concerned, now that Hamas's military wing and also political wing has been decapitated, it doesn't show any signs of defeat, of retreating. On the contrary, it sees an opportunity for it to wage a counter-insurgency campaign that may last for years, if not a decade, and then it sees this as an opportunity for it to be seen as the only Palestinian organization capable of fighting Israel, all at the expense of the civilians in Gaza, who are the real victims of this war between Hamas and Israel.
If you can help me clarify what you just mentioned, because like you mentioned, perhaps the killing of Yahya Sinwar is a significant blow, but will not hold Hamas's action in its track. And on the contrary, that might actually embolden them to push back on Israel. So what would be the incentive for Prime Minister Netanyahu to come to a ceasefire or any sort of peace deal, if knowing that Hamas will still truck forward as they would?
Well, I mean, as a matter of fact, Israel in this war right now, Israel is the stronger party, and it has achieved some considerable, important tactical victories, be it in Gaza or in the war against Hezbollah. So the ball is actually in the court of Israeli government to take initiative and literally, as I said, take the win, declare victory, and try to reach a deal with through Qatar, Egypt, US, to get the hostages back, whoever are still alive, and also retreat from Gaza. But that is not happening, and that will not happen anytime soon because Netanyahu has no political interest in such a settlement for personal reasons. Obviously, we have spoken about that extensively in other interviews, and by now it's really known that should the war stops, he has to face two inquiries: one criminal corruption inquiry, and the other one is an inquiry into the debacle, the disaster of October 7th. He has to account for that. So he has no interest to stop the war, and that's why he will continue with this war. So in the current context, Israel is the stronger party, and it has more, I would say, responsibility to take the first step, but it's not doing that. And Hamas indeed weakened, decapitated, but not defeated. So instead of, also for Hamas, they do have a responsibility, a huge responsibility towards the civilians in Gaza to try to save whatever could be saved right now, but they will not do that either because they feel that they don't feel that responsibility towards the civilians in Gaza. They see this as a kind of an existential war for them against Israel, and they may think that taking lessons from other counterinsurgency campaigns in Iraq, in Afghanistan, that may, in the long run, they may, be able to, to turn the tide.
Right. You talked about, of course, a lot about protecting the civilians and within, Gaza and the Palestinian population. I would like to get some information about the perspective of the Palestinian population, the civilians, when it comes to their thoughts about the killing of Yahya Sinwar. Do they overall see that as something positive or negative?
Well, I mean, it's difficult to get a kind of an overall unifying, I think, perspective from the Palestinians about the death of Sinwar. Obviously, as we have seen on some reports, some people hoped that the killing of Sinwar would lead to the end of the war, and others who are Hamas supporters, obviously, they are not happy with the killing of Sinwar, and in that regard, it's difficult to get a kind of one unifying Palestinian view. But and you have in certain quarters the more critical voices who hoped again that his killing will end, may lead to the end of the war, but that is not the case. I think what is key right now, regardless of what exactly the Palestinians think about, I mean, based on what we see right now, the destruction, the death and destruction in Gaza, the unimaginable humanitarian disaster in Gaza, what is key is for US, but also Western powers to take leadership, put pressure on Israel to do two things. First, allow humanitarian aid to Gaza, sufficient humanitarian aid. Second, to end the siege of northern Gaza. And third, to restart the ceasefire negotiations and also try to get the hostages back, because right now, Hamas is weakened. There is really a good opportunity for Israel to capitalize on the killing of Sinwar, to try to get as many alive hostages, as back, home. But unfortunately, that is not happening right now. And I don't think that it will happen anytime soon, because Israel, this government, is in a kind of an euphoria of victory. They think that after killing the leader of Hezbollah, the leaders of Hamas, and making some very important tactical victories, that they can go ahead with this war. But I think that's an illusion, because in the war, there is no military solution to this war.
All right, so we might still see a lot more destruction going forward. But in the meantime, thank you so much for your input and insight. Appreciate it. Thanks for being with us on TVP World.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for watching this edition of World Talks. But for more news, update, commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.